Welcome to INN CEO Talks. In this episode, we're talking about gold exploration in the Caribou Mining District of British Columbia. The Caribou Gold Belt in south-central British Columbia was a world-class gold producer. Estimates of historic production in the area prior to 1874 were approximately 3.8 million ounces. 2 million of that from placer operations and 1.8 from lode deposits. Joining me today is Perry Little, the president and CEO of Green River Gold. The company was founded because Mr. Little and his team saw near-term cash flow potential in the placer mining industry. They also recognized tremendous potential for hard rock gold discoveries. In March of 2019, Green River acquired the Fontaine Gold Project, an acquisition that included 90 square kilometers of mineral claims. And just 1 month later, the area was the focus of a lot of attention when the company's neighbor, Barkerville Gold Mines, was acquired for $335 million. Perry, welcome. I know you've got some news, and I'm sure that in that news you're going to be telling people why they should be looking at placer mining ventures at this time.
Well, I may throw you a curveball and talk about some things other than placer mining. So
okay, bring it on.
Yeah, we've had some things happen in the last month and a half that have kind of changed our short-term focus. We are still very much a gold company. That is our focus. We're not called Green River Nickel or Green River Talc. It may change at some point, but we're River Gold at this point. And we did indeed go out there to do some placer mining with a private company. I retired as a stockbroker, went out and tried placer mining and realized that there's more money made supplying the placer miners. Kind of became part of the infrastructure, I guess, for mining in the Quesnel area, in the Caribou area. So we run a shop and a store in there, which gives us a lot of contacts. That's where we actually found the Fontaine Project, and we staked it, and we're very happy with what we have there on the gold front. We've just recently shot a UAV mag survey, which defined the areas we want to stress, and I think we'll be quite successful with our exploration on that as we go forward. We're right on the trend that sort of heads down from Osisco, the old Barkerville Gold Mines property, straight south down through us, and Karis Gold Mines is down there, which is 27% owned by Eric Sprott. And then a little further down, you've got Spanish Mountain Gold. So we're right on the prevailing trend. We got in there before the area heated up. Osisco's really brought a lot of money, and they're going at it crazy. They drilled crazy. They drilled 152,000 meters of drill holes on their property last year, and that's right next door to us. We share about 10 kilometers of boundary with them directly, and we're right on the trend. So the area is heating up for gold. I'm going to throw you a curveball and talk about something totally different today, though.
Okay.
So, when we staked the Fontaine, we bought the core part of it, and then we staked everything around it. And the person we were working with at the time was a local. She suggested that we basically veer off a little bit to the north and west. So it's all contiguous. It's all part of the same 90 square kilometers. But there's about 20 square kilometers that are more nickel and that have this really interesting old talc deposit on it. And I'll talk about talc in a couple of minutes and explain what that is, because nobody ever knows. And if you understand talc, you'll understand why we're excited here. What we did is we staked that extra 20 square kilometers just simply because it was contiguous and it was easy and it was cheap, and we saw some interesting stuff. There were some indications of old nickel showings, and we thought, okay, well, that'll be good to throw in there. We didn't intend to focus on it. The more we looked at it, the more it got interesting. And when we did the UAV mag survey last summer, it highlighted a large magnetic anomaly where we expected the nickel would be. And so we really started to drill down and do our homework on it. We're not drilling. But we started to dig down into the old historic records and take a look at it and compare it to magnetic signatures of hopefully similar projects. And we think we've got something that's going to have a significant amount of nickel on it. And it runs for about 3 kilometers, and it's about 500 meters wide. So that's exciting. But here's where it gets really exciting. And this all happened in the last month and a half. I mentioned talc. Back in the 1980s, some gentlemen picked up a bunch of claims in there, right close to where the nickel is. Not where we expected the hotspot to be, but very close to it. And they did a lot of work on the talc. They didn't drill a lot of holes, but boy, did they do a lot of homework on the marketing, the market for talc, where it could be sold. They processed the stuff to find out what type of talc they had, how clean it was, and they really did an awful lot of homework, including some drilling. So we never said much about the talc. We were kind of interested in it, but this summer I managed to pick up two claims that constituted the hole in the donut. There were two claims that we were missing that were right in the middle of that talc deposit, and I managed to negotiate those in July. So we filled in the hole in our 90 square kilometers, the one spot we were missing that we wanted, and it was the talc. We thought, let's go in there and let's just re-drill this stuff because it comes right to surface. Okay, there's outcroppings, and outcroppings are rare in the Caribou. There's an awful lot of glacial till gravel. It's hard to find the gold there because you've got anywhere from 20 to 120 feet of gravel laying on top of it in most cases. So it's not like Northern Ontario where I grew up, where the rocks are in your backyard, right? They're everywhere. This is quite different. So we decided we'd go out and try drilling off these outcroppings, and just with a backpack drill, one-man drill. You don't even need a permit for it, and typically you only go down about 20 feet with these things. They got a motor about the size of your weed eater, and we suddenly found out how soft talc is. I'll tell you a bit about talc. It's the softest known mineral. It's the softest mineral, period. Soapstone is a form of talc, and that's the more solid form of talc. In a lot of cases, it's crushed and crumbled, and if you scrape the side of a piece of drill core that's got talc in it, you'll find white powder on the end of your fingernail. It's very, very soft. So with this backpack drill, without any modifications, we were actually able to get down 60 feet, which I just unbelievable with this little one-man drill. And it pulls up about a 1.4-inch drill core. So we drilled 9 holes, and we thought we'd just try to reprove what these fellows had proven in the 80s, because as you know, the 43-101 rules came in and they're quite a bit different. You can't just say, geez, there's a hole, we got 1 million ounces of gold, yeehaw. It's a little different now. So we thought we'd go in and try to reprove this. We started with a fluke. In our second hole, we drilled at 70 degrees, and about 40 feet down, we actually intersected one of their drill holes from the 80s. Just a complete blind shot. You couldn't do that again in a million years. But all of a sudden, there's this hole. They had a 3/4-inch drill core, and we actually intersected their hole, which is great because it tells us exactly where they drilled from. And the results we're getting are virtually identical to what they had. And there's a lot of talc. It's talc right from the surface, but by the time you get down about 40 feet, you're into, they said 85 to 95% talc. And so what the heck's talc? Well, it's the soft. It's about a $3 billion annual market around the world, and it gets used in all kinds of industrial processes. Everybody knows talcum powder. Okay, that comes from talc. Soapstone is talc. But the primary uses of talc, I just scribbled them down here, the most recent ones I saw, and this is in the US. 26% of talc goes into plastics, 17% into ceramics. You sit down in your toilet, you're probably sitting on talc. 16% of it goes into paint, and 16% into paper. So that's about 3/4 of the market. It also goes into all kinds of different industrial solvents and roofing materials and rubber production, whatever. It has unique properties, being the softest. It's a great filler for things like paint. So it has a good market. There are no talc mines west of Timmins in Canada. There are some in western U.S., but the west of Canada does import some talc. So we have kind of a unique situation with talc right from surface. But here's where it really gets interesting. I mentioned that we had this big magnetic anomaly with nickel in it. We thought this was perhaps on the periphery of that magnetic anomaly, not on the strongest part of it by any means, but we thought, there might be a little bit of nickel laying around this area. It was more than we thought. So when we drilled the holes, our geologist looked at it and said, "You've got visible nickel in these drill holes." Why it was never really picked up on much in the 1980s, I was around. Nickel prices didn't excite anybody, and nobody looked at low-grade, near-surface nickel deposits. That wasn't the kind of mining that was happening in those days. Now, with the growth of battery usage, stainless steel usage is growing around the world as well. But nickel is 75% of it probably still goes into stainless steel. But batteries, the use in batteries are going absolutely crazy. And that is going to underpin the nickel price for a long time. So nickel's over 22,000 US a ton. Fabulous price. So what wouldn't have interested anybody back in the 80s is interesting now. So what we did, we've sent the stuff in for assay. We haven't got the assay results yet, but we did use an XRF gun. And the new XRF guns, they're getting better and better at giving you accurate readings. And basically what you do, it just takes its X-ray fluorescence. And we went down the entire length of each drill core, which wasn't much. Our best hole is only 15 meters deep. It was, and you go down the entire length of it very scientifically at set spacing. And you zap this thing, and it gives you a PDF readout of what elements you've got in there and what percentages. So it turned out we've got nickel and we've got chromium. There's manganese, there's a bunch of other stuff. But the nickel amount are actually fairly significant. So hole number 6, we came in at 0.16% nickel. It doesn't sound like much. The bottom 5 meters of that hole were actually 0.25% nickel. So the lower we go, can't say this because we have such a limited data set, but it seems like it gets better at depth. So as the talc becomes richer and your drill core begins to crumble because it's so soft, the nickel enrichment seems to be getting a little better as well. And we also had 0.13% chromium. So we've got two valuable elements. So what I tried to describe to somebody the other day is we have nickel and chromium swimming in a sea of talc. And the upshot of this could be fabulous because some of the large low-grade nickel deposits that are projected to be mined in BC, for that matter. FPX Nickel's got one. I think they're 0.18% nickel, and the math on it looks fabulous. I'm trying to think. I think Giga Metals has the Turnagain project, which is, I think, 0.2% nickel. So we're coming in at 0.16 right from surface. And there wasn't a single point anywhere in that drill core that didn't have both nickel and chromium in it. So we have no idea what we're sitting on here. We've purchased a Winky drill, which will allow us to go down 400 feet, and we'll be doing that. We should be out there in early March, just picking up a few of the extra pieces we need for the drill. And then we'll be going down 400 feet. And if we're still in talc 400 feet down, and this thing's huge because the talc showings occurred, they checked it into various places in the 80s, and it's well over a kilometer long. If we've got depth on this thing, then we've got a pile of talc. And talc pricing, raw talc, it's kind of hard to sell. I think it's worth about $40 a ton or something. But milled talc, which is prepared talc, is about $270 US last year on average. And it really varies depending on the clarity of the talc, the whiteness, the brightness. So we've got a property that's a multi-commodity threat, and we've just literally scratched the surface of it. So sorry, I should let you ask some questions.
So Perry, we've gone way over time, but still, at this point, in listening to what you've been explaining, as a viewer who's thinking about investing, they're going to go, okay, what are your next steps, and how is that going to help me make a decision about whether or not I want to get involved in Green River?
Well, first off, at our market cap, the gold property that we've barely started to explore is probably worth more than our market cap, but that's besides the point. We've got this talc deposit. We will be drilling it for depth this winter. The great thing about up there is you can get up on sleds. We're 500 yards off of a major logging road and 16 kilometers south of pavement with the Barkerville Highway. And that goes into Quesnel. So we've got everything for infrastructure. You've got power. You've got everything there. Very short and labor. So we would never have to build a man camp. Everybody could commute to the mine if we get that far with it. But we'll be drilling for depth. That'll be the next thing, and also to confirm the results on the nickel and chrome part of it. We'll be getting the actual assay results within about a month, we hope. Labs are always backed up, but on the first hole that we sent in, which was hole number 6. but the results were remarkably similar over all 9 holes. So I think what we've got coming, we'll have a steady stream of information on this throughout the winter. It's only about 3 weeks out of the season you can't drill out there and work.
Wow.
When the snow first melts, you can't get up there by sled, and it turns into a swamp, so you can't even run with an ATV. But yeah, we're excited this fall.
So I've got to jump in just on time here and ask, will you come back and give us results in a month or so?
I'd be excited to. Yeah, I really would.
Yeah.
And just think of the math on this thing this way. Picture a talc mine where you get the nickel and the chromium for free,
Wow.
or a nickel and chromium mine where 80% of the stuff that you would normally be throwing out is actually a marketable commodity. And you can see why we suddenly got excited about this. We're still very much a gold company, but we had to focus on this in the short term.
Yeah, well, and it's understandable as to why, and I'm sure that there's going to be a number of people who watch this interview who are going to say, "Okay, Perry, I want updates in the next couple of months." So I look forward to sharing those updates with people who tune into the show.
We will definitely keep everybody posted. We're thrilled to see what happens. I can't wait to poke that long hole, the first one, and just see how deep this thing goes, and maybe even what's underneath it. We don't know what's down there either. So.
Yeah, your excitement is obvious. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Take care.